It is absolutely upsetting for our human mind to use logic trying to understand paranormal facts. If there are entities or beings beyond our plane, what are they? Where do they come from and what do they want? If we ask like a scientist, it would be, what kind of life forms are they? Do they come from an alternate dimension? I mean, from a parallel world? All of us have asked ourselves those questions at least once. Now, imagine what can go through the mind of a person who is struck by one of these beings. Why her? What is special about an entity whose nature we cannot understand, specifically fixed on a person to practically destroy her life? The story that I bring you today places us on August 22, 1974, in Culver City, California. Investigators Kerry Gaynor and Barry Taft were lecturing at a local bookstore about paranormal investigation. They were approached by a woman in her 30s named DORIS BITHER, who lived in a small house with her 6-year-old daughter and 10, 13, and 16 years old sons. Peter asked investigators to visit her home, claiming that the place was haunted. At first, the researchers were skeptical, and even more taking into account the alcohol problem that Doris herself mentioned. But seeing the terrible photos of the incredible bruises and scratches that Doris presented throughout her body, and listening to the testimony of one of the Doris sons giving truth to the phenomenon, these two men finally show a lot of interest and also saw an opportunity for research. Gaynor and Taft began their investigation without even imagining how horrifying, creepy, and serious the matter was, because everything Doris described about their day-to-day made the investigator think how it was possible that this woman still had the strength to stay alive. Perhaps she was still fighting for her children, and this also made them understand why she had fallen into the alcohol problem. Doris was a single mother, and every day after she came from work and just entering her home, a deep fear invaded her, accompanied by indescribable sadness and a huge feeling of hopelessness, because she already knew what was waiting for her. Everything began when an enormous force threw her through the air. She described it as if a car ran her at full speed. When she had not just finished getting up from the floor, that same force threw her against the ceiling again. The lights started blinking. She felt huge hands squeezing her hard. Big nails were tearing her skin. Demolishing fists began to hit her, but that was only the beginning. This unknown entity, after spoiling Doris enough to keep her almost limp, would open her legs and introduce what she describes as a huge fiery thing full of thorns that tore her sex organ, making her scream. Those screams made despair of their children, who did not come to their room because they knew what was going to happen to them. Since one of them, once trying to help his mother, was blown into the wall by the unpredictable force. In fact, the testimony from Doris' sons about this event is what made the investigator come to her home. They, armed with special equipment, in the very first night of investigation in Doris' house, were able to confirm how the lights went on and off by themselves, how objects moved without explanation, and how Doris was tormented by something unknown. This made them invite all the expert colleagues in the subject they knew to incorporate them into the research, since they had never come across with something like this. It is that 30 people, among men and women who knew very well the field of paranormal, they attest, confirm, and assure to this day that what happened to Doris was completely real. On the following nights, when they carry out the first interview with Doris's teenage son in the kitchen, the cabinets were thrown open, pots and pans fell violently without anyone touching them, and everyone felt some kind of presence in the bedroom. The pictures that were taken with a Polaroid did not come out correctly, or were just whitish. Doris was taken out of the house to observe, with considerable amazement, that the phenomena that were occurring disappeared. The photographs taken with the same camera with the same film cartridge worked normally. The investigation lasts 10 weeks. Doris and her children describe horrible encounters with beings. A kind of a huge man accompanied by two small beings were holding him. Staff and Gaynor claimed to have seen the shape of a person from strange lights. In the famous report, more than 30 investigators, as well as Doris, were in the small bedroom, equipped with recording material. Doris began to curse and scream at the spirits. To the surprise of many, strange lights began to manifest around the room. A greenish mist began to form in the corner, spinning and growing. Within seconds, the shape of a man's upper torso began to be visible in the mist. Many witnesses claimed that it was a male entity, very large and muscular but without a face. An investigator passed out after seeing the incredible phenomenon. The recording camera failed and were only be able to capture the image of what appears to be an arc of light floating in the middle of the room, as well as some orb of light. Many experts have reviewed the photographs showing Doris sitting on a bed, surrounded by researchers and the arc of light in the center of the image. Given that it's a room with corners, if someone had used a projector, there would have been folds in the arc and not as smooth as you can see. Upon completion of the investigation, they recommended Doris move out due to the seriousness of the situation. The Bither family moved to San Bernardino, Texas, maintaining contact with the investigator. What the researchers really did not expect was that the entity, or the entities, followed Doris in her new residence to continue assaulting her brutally. As a curious fact, there is a movie called The Entity, which tells the story of Doris with certain modifications, in case you want to watch it. Without a doubt, this story shows us that unknown entities exist, and that they can attack anyone, turning their lives into complete hell. You only have to pray and beg that any of these entities will never notice you. If you enjoyed this video, like, share, and subscribe.